What were the biggest premieres in history? Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, Didn't You Know How to Love Me by Blitz, Little Yellow Bikini from 𝘾𝙤𝙥𝙮𝙧? No, that's not what we're going to talk about. The 10 biggest and most memorable debuts and drivers in Formula One. There are old drivers, there are recent debuts, there is even an honorable mention to a Brazilian. So it's about them, those grand debuts of people who made a splash right from the start, that we're going to talk about today on Splash and Go. Let's go! I tried to record during lunchtime to avoid this here. Let's keep going. It's not easy to make a big impact in any motorsport category. Every time someone moves up a level, it's expected that there will be a bit of an adaptation period. After all, new car, new tires, a different weekend. When it involves all the attention that Formula One attracts, there are also lots of interviews, the eyes of the world on an event that, as we know, is global. So, we really have to take our hats off to those dedicated drivers who get into the car and, without losing their intense focus or getting easily distracted by everything that truly surrounds the demanding world of Formula One, manage to hit the nail squarely on the head, as the English so aptly like to say. And I've picked out 10 for our list, as well as a few honorable mentions who didn't finish their races, but honestly, they also made quite an entrance. And in 10th place, Stoffel Vandoorne, the Belgian reserve driver for McLaren, got his chance to make his Formula One debut in an unexpected way at the 2016 Bahrain Grand Prix. Do you remember why? Because Fernando Alonso had fractured his ribs after a terrible accident with Esteban Gutierrez from Haas in Melbourne. The reserve driver, who was the reigning GP2 champion at the time, got into the car and didn't disappoint, neither in qualifying nor in the race. On Saturday, he put the car in 12th position, which was enough to catch the attention of a lot of people who thought, blimey, in his first qualifying he gets through Q1, goes into Q2 and qualifies well, not ending up 15th, 12th. But the best was yet to come on Sunday, when he secured points on his debut at a time when the McLaren Honda car, remember, didn't always make it to the end. It rarely finished races, let alone performed well on tracks with long straights like Bahrain, but he went there and finished in 10th place. Scoring points on your debut is always remarkable, especially when it's done at the last minute without much time to prepare. The guy gets in the car, 12th on Saturday, and scores a point, even if it's just one, on Sunday. The Russian Daniil Kvyat was yet another example of a driver brought up by Red Bull from the junior categories, who debuted at Toro Rosso, the B team, with the hope of one day making it, and was promoted to the main team. And his debut took place on a track considered difficult, Albert Park, in Australia, in 2014. He took his Toro Rosso, with that big nose, to 15th place on the starting grid on Saturday, and then, on Sunday, managed to avoid trouble at the start, watched everyone else break down. After all, it was the debut of hybrid engines in Formula One, remember? And then, dodging trouble in this minefield, on a tricky track with the walls always very close, street asphalt and so on, he took his Toro Rosso with Gonzo's nose to 9th place, becoming, at that moment, the youngest driver in history to score points. That record would later be snatched by Max Verstappen. And something that adds a few extra stars to Kvyat's achievement is that he finished just one position behind his Toro Rosso teammate, Jean-Eric Vergne, who had been racing for much longer. And then everyone thought, this guy is going to have a brilliant future in Formula One, right? Right. Sebastian Vettel was a German reserve driver for BMW Sauber, who took over Robert Kubica's car at the 2007 United States Grand Prix, after Kubica hit the wall in Montreal a week earlier and was sidelined by the doctors, who said, "You're clinically fine, but if anything else happens, we can't guarantee your safety." Vettel was then called up to sit in the car, replacing Kubica and partnering with Nick Heidfeld for that Grand Prix in Indianapolis. On Saturday, he took his BMW Sauber to an excellent 7th place, 2 behind his teammate Heidfeld, who finished 5th. And then on Sunday, showing maturity and consistency, he became, at least at that moment, the youngest in history to score points as well, at 19 years and 249 days old. That record would later be, as we've already mentioned here, taken by Kvyat, who would also lose the record, if you know what I mean, to Max Verstappen. A bit of a cheeky joke, isn't it? Before we carry on, let me just take a moment to tell you, we're running a campaign to produce the new batch of Splash and Go t-shirts, right? You didn't know? Well, now you do. The initial batch is 500 t-shirts, and at the time of recording this video, we've already reached about 24% of our goal. We've got them in baby blue, which is the channel's standard color, and also in another style, highlighter green. They're good quality, just so you know. I've had mine since 2022, and with this new batch, I'm getting more for myself. They're made by the same supplier who produces the t-shirts for the Formula One teams when they come to Brazil. The manufacturer is officially approved by Formula One itself. A quality product for the best and biggest Formula One audience in Brazil. You lot. The price, R$169, with shipping included anywhere in Brazil. Unfortunately, we can't deliver outside Brazil. If you're outside Brazil and want to get yours, you'll need to arrange for it to be delivered to someone here in the country. After that, you can sort out the final part however works best for you. They have the Splash and Go logo, the channel standard. On the side here, the new batch will have 3 stripes, just like those stripes over there. Blue for those who are blue, highlighter for those who are highlighter. They also have a little tag here on the stripe with the channel's logo to add that special touch, just like the Formula One team shirts do. We want to do the same as them. The campaign will be live until the 7th of September. 500 is the initial batch. If we go over that, it's not a problem. Last time, in 2022, when the channel had a fifth of today's audience, there were 267 produced. So, just judging by the number of subscribers we have, almost hitting 1,000, plus the people who watch us, I think we'll get close to double the initial target. But for that, by the 7th of September, we need to reach the minimum target, 500, because otherwise it's a production batch, all or nothing. If we don't hit it, the money goes back to those who supported us on the Benfeitoria website. The link is here in this QR code, pinned in the first comment and also in the description. So, once it's over there, make sure you get yours, or more than one. There were people who bought both. I've already seen it. And let's fill up racetracks, indoor karting tracks, automotive and motorsport events, your mates' barbecues, and so on, all wearing the channel's kit. I've already bumped into several of you at different events wearing the channel's t-shirt. At my book launch last year, Luis Eduardo, if I'm not mistaken, turned up in one, which I signed. Not sure if he washed it afterwards, so let's do this. And if it works out, we can think about other products, jackets, caps, and so on. Until the 7th of September, the Sunday of the Monza Grand Prix, the campaign is live. QR code here, link down below in the description. Alright, that's it. Then, let's go. Felipe Nasr, as I always say here, in my opinion, is one of the talents that Formula One failed to make the most of through its own fault, because he always had the skill. In fact, he still does. At the time of recording this video, he's the current double IMSA champion, and the 2015 season, Nasr's first in Formula One, making his debut with Sauber, started off in chaotic fashion. But while chaotic races are a problem for some, they're an opportunity for others, and Nasr got in the car and managed to overcome the issues, starting from 10th place in his blue car with the yellow Banco do Brasil side, and take note, bringing it home in 5th place. The best debut by a Brazilian in Formula One history. He had been runner-up in GP2 the previous year, served as a reserve at Williams, did several free practice sessions, and everyone already knew. The guy was good, but many drivers with a reputation for being good debut in Formula One, and when it comes to delivering results, sometimes they take a while to show up. But Nasr got in the car and immediately started delivering results, and on Saturday he qualified the car in 11th place. He would move up to 10th on the grid for Sunday, putting 9/10, almost a whole second, on his teammate Marcus Ericsson, who already had a full season in Formula One, having driven for Caterham the previous year, and thus made it through to Q2. Ericsson was knocked out in Q1, and then in the race, only 11 of the 16 cars that started, yes, As I mentioned, it was chaos, made it to the end, and he managed to dodge problems to cross the finish line in 5th place, starting off really well, scoring points and scoring a lot. You might have noticed that the Australian Grand Prix comes up quite a few times here, right? That's right. That's because for many years it opened the Formula One season, as has happened again this year, 2025. And Mark Webber, an Australian, was racing at home in Albert Park in 2002, driving a Minardi car, starting from 18th position. Webber had a tough journey before making it to Formula One. He realized he wouldn't have the money to pursue his career in single-seaters on his own, so he agreed to join Mercedes' development program for endurance racing, which was far from the path he had hoped for towards Formula One. He even featured in a famous video here on the channel, the one where he did a backflip at the 1999 Sierra Leone's Mans 24 hours, at a time when he already thought he would never be a Formula One driver. But fate, along with his own talent, because he was a very fast driver, ended up leading him to the top tier of motorsport. It was yet another chaotic race at Albert Park, with only 8 of the 22 cars that started actually making it to the finish line. And Webber managed to bring his fragile Minardi home in 5th place at the checkered flag, holding off a much faster and more capable Toyota. 5th place at a time when only the top 6 scored points. 5th place at home, and the commotion was so great that the Formula One organizers allowed him onto the podium to celebrate. It was quite the party that afternoon in Melbourne. Another driver who made his debut racing at home. In the past, this happened a lot because it was easier to get sponsorship at home, even if it was just for a single race. And he started very well indeed. He really made an entrance. Jean Alesi pulled off a 4th place at the French Grand Prix in Paul Ricard, 1989, driving a modest Tyrrell. Right there, another great star was born, someone destined to be a champion. Right. Well, not quite. Not always. A commercial disagreement between the sponsors of the car's original driver, the Italian Michele Alboreto, led Tyrrell to drop him and instead take the money from Camel, who were sponsoring Alesi, then a Jordan driver in Formula 3000. Yes, that Jordan, which in '91, 2 years later, would also join the grid, and Ken Tyrrell then said to the impetuous young Frenchman, "You've got the money, you're going to race. You're going to race at home. Shall we go for it?" And racing at home is no simple task, especially because the local media are all over you. Brimming with confidence, Alesi, who was always genuinely quick and had a spectacular driving style, sliding the car and so on, started, mind you, from 16th on the grid. He stayed out on track, stretching out his pit stops, and then, when he was in 2nd place, he stopped, changed tires, and came back to finish the race in 4th position, already making his mark and automatically receiving a contract from Tyrrell to race the following year. And he would race, and the rest is history. I've already talked several times about Alesi getting tangled up in contract issues in Pequena Grande Historia, also in the list of drivers who, quote, didn't make it, and so on. It's worth watching later. Let's remember that Alesi's result was achieved on a very fast track. Paul Ricard, at that time, had the Mistral straight, flat out all the way against the V10S and V12S of McLaren, Williams, and Ferrari. And there he was, with a modest Ford Cosworth powering his Tyrrell in an outdated version, the one that ran with the factory engines, like Benetton, yet he still managed to snatch a 4th place. I always say here that in some third dimension, a parallel reality, Alesi would have 2 or 3 Formula One championships. Johnny Herbert appears on this list in a better position than Jean Alesi for a very simple reason. He wasn't in any condition to race in the Grand Prix, where he made his debut and finished in 4th place. All because, months earlier, while racing in Formula 3000, he was almost killed by Gregor Wojtek, a Swiss driver whose most notable achievement in his career is, in fact, nearly killing Herbert. And when he arrived at Jacarapagua in 1989 to make his debut, he could barely get in and out of the car on his own, was walking on crutches, and in fact, today he wouldn't be allowed to race, because a Formula One driver needs to be able to get out of the car after undoing the seat belts and removing the steering wheel in 5 seconds, and Herbert wouldn't have been able to do it in, I don't know, 1930. He started from 10th position. It was scorching hot. On that day, Nigel Mansell won, making his debut with a paddle shift car, and not even Mansell himself believed he would be able to finish. Herbert finished on a day of great achievement. Mansell won that race with the semi-automatic gearbox, Mauricio Gugelmin took the stunning Leighton House to the podium, and Herbert crossed the line in 4th place. Due to the physical limitations caused by the accident, in fact, Herbert would be replaced during the year by Emanuele Pirro and would later return. And the proof that perhaps we lost yet another great talent is that Herbert would continue in Formula One until 1999, partnering with Barrichello at Stewart in his final year and winning his last race there, because he had already claimed 2 more victories with Benetton in 1995, teaming up with Schumacher. Another appearance at Albert Park. In fact, an occasion that has already been mentioned here. On the day Kvyat put the car in 9th position, another rookie took a McLaren Mercedes to the podium. Kevin Magnussen, who seemed to be yet another great star destined for championships and victories, made his debut with a 2nd place finish after starting from 4th. We had all the elements there to believe this is the guy who's going to wipe out the competition. He was promoted straight from Formula Renault 3.5 to Formula One and was a young talent that McLaren had their eye on and had been nurturing throughout his career. A lot of people questioned the decision. In fact, they always do. Especially if someone is being promoted and a Brazilian is being left out. You know how it is. And then I'm the one who gets called annoying. But in Melbourne, Magnussen not only outperformed his teammate, Jenson Button, a world champion, who put his McLaren in 10th on the grid compared to Magnussen's 4th, but he also made progress during the race, withstood pressure from Daniel Ricciardo's Red Bull, and finished behind only Nico Rosberg, who won that race, the debut of the hybrid engines. He left behind, in addition to his teammate Button, Fernando Alonso's Ferrari, Kimi Räikkönen's other Ferrari, the Force Indias of Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez, as well as the 2 Toro Rossos of Vettel and Kvyat. And if you look at the result of that race, you'll see that Ricciardo, despite crossing the finish line in 3rd, didn't keep the result because he was disqualified. Once again, the Australian Grand Prix, the season opener, once again McLaren promoting a rookie and everyone asking, is this guy really all that? Yeah, well, ask Fernando Alonso, who probably still needs therapy because of it. McLaren carefully prepared the ground to win the 2007 championship. In fact, they prepared so well that they even made sure to copy Ferrari's designs. You probably know this story, but if you don't, take a look at this video here. The famous Spygate scandal. But wasn't all. Besides a great car, they also went after a top driver and stole from Renault. Who won the last 2 championships? Fernando Alonso, titles in 2005 and 2006, with 2006 a direct battle against Schumacher. What about 2005? Many forget in 2005 against Räikkönen and McLaren, Ferrari weren't in the fight for the championship. But you don't like Alonso. No, that's not it. Those are just the facts. Go and have a look. You'll see Ferrari didn't win any races. Well, actually, they did win, didn't they? They won that 6-car race at Indianapolis. That was when a certain Lewis Hamilton made his debut, qualifying his McLaren in 4th place and, at the start, simply overtook Fernando Alonso around the outside, Alonso being the team's lead driver and, at that point, the one truly destined to win the 2007 title. During the race, thanks to strategy circumstances, Hamilton even led the race for 4 laps. If making it to the podium on your Formula One debut is already rare, just imagine reaching the podium on your debut after qualifying close to a double world champion and then, at the very first corner, pulling off a memorable overtake on him. The rest of the season would go on to pave the way for what I tell you must still haunt Fernando Alonso in his nightmares to this day. Giancarlo Baghetti was the only driver in Formula One history to win on his debut. I mean, look, just wait for him to pause, right? Of course, Giuseppe Nino Farina won the very first Formula One Grand Prix, and since there was no Formula One before that, it was also his first race. But that doesn't really count, mainly because Farina was an experienced driver. He had already won Grand Prix before Formula One was created, and so on. Ɓëghetti won the French Grand Prix at Reims in a marvelous duel against Dan Gurney, who at the time was racing for Porsche. Yes, Porsche once had a factory team in Formula One, and I tell that story in the video about manufacturers who entered the sport and ended up falling flat on their faces. And he managed to make the overtake that gave him the victory just 100 meters from the finish line, pulling out of the slipstream to pass on the final straight. What makes this victory so special is that Ɓëghetti won on his debut, starting from 12th position. It's worth noting that this would be Ɓëghetti's only victory in Formula One. He would continue to make occasional appearances until 1967, when he still competed in one race, the Italian Grand Prix, driving for Lotus. After that debut triumph, his best results were a 4th and a 5th place the following year, 1962, in the Netherlands at Zandvoort and in Italy at Monza. In addition to these 10, this list also includes honorable mentions for drivers who made impressive debuts but did not finish their races. For example, Carlos Reutemann, who made his Formula One debut in 1972, racing at home in Buenos Aires, and secured pole position, beating none other than Jack Stewart. Or Mario Andretti, also racing at home, also on pole position in 1968, being the first in history to set a pole position on his debut, as this happened 4 years before Reutemann. Phil Hill, who at the 1962 Mexican Grand Prix put his Ferrari in 2nd place, qualifying ahead of the reigning Formula One champion who had won in '61, the American Phil Hill. But Rodriguez, like the others, retired from the race. And Jacques Villeneuve, who at the 1996 Australian Grand Prix, making his debut for Williams, also put the car in 2nd place on the grid, but didn't make it to the end. And just to note, he dropped out after having pulled off a great overtake on Damon Hill. Which of these is your favorite debut? Did I leave out any really good ones? It's possible. Let us know down below. Who knows? Maybe we can do a part 2 of this list. Comment here if you remembered any others, or if you don't want to comment on that, tell us where you're watching from. Send a shout out to your husband, wife, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, cat, dog, or parakeet. Don't want to comment or send a shout out to anyone? Just leave a little emoji, even a checkered flag, because the algorithm counts that as a comment and keeps spreading our content across the internet. And then, you know, it gets easier to reach 300,000 subscribers. So that was another episode of Splash and Go on YouTube. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a like, it's free, doesn't cost a thing. It really helps the channel. Do me a favor, do us a favor, and don't forget to leave your hype as well, so you don't miss out on anything we do here. We've got notification channels on Instagram, Telegram, and WhatsApp. You join and start getting an automatic message as soon as I publish each piece of content. The groups are showing down here. Link in the description. Finally, we also have our channel's social media, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok, link down below in the description. The handles are showing here and there's content there all the time. Oh, there really is. I'll see you all in the next videos. Cheers and a big hug.